Last year, I had the pleasure of playing Signalis, an indie horror game that took the scene by storm with its retro approach to survival horror in both aesthetic and game design, really capturing the old feel that the PlayStation had with games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, while also maintaining its own identity with its otherworldly and psychological themes. I really sunk into Signalis and its world, and after completing it, I really wanted to experience more from the genre of survival horror. However, nothing really caught my eye for the rest of the year, and that motivation for wanting to experience the world of survival horror started to drift away. Until recently, a game that was released earlier this year caught the attention of my eyes, and reignited that feeling for me, making me want to dim the lights and buckle down for a spooky time. The game, of course, that I am talking about is a retro indie horror game by the name of Crow Country. Crow Country launched in May of this year and instantly gathered the attention of fans of survival horror, both new and old, and I was no different. For a game about exploring and puzzle solving, I thought it'd be fun if I invited a friend along for the ride, so I played through Crow Country with a good friend of mine, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had playing a video game. Over the course of the month, we'd hang out, have some snacks, and talk about whatever while picking apart the world and story that Crow Country had to offer us. Crow Country is amazing, and if you're someone who wants to get into survival horror or already loves the genre, I wholeheartedly recommend it to you. However, I am not talking about the world or story very much in today's video. Most survival horror games have a results screen that displays some stats for the player to go over, like enemy kills, healing items used, deaths, etc. Crow Country has the exact same type of results screen after the credits roll. After beating the game once, you unlock the game's hard mode, Murder of Crows, which is the difficulty I am playing today. To achieve all Steam achievements, the highest rank you'll need is an S rank on Murder of Crows, which requires 10 or less healing items used, 14 out of 15 secrets found, at least 80 kills, 4 or less times saving the game, and 0 bonus items used. A tough challenge, but very doable for any player to attempt. However, for the truly dedicated fans, there is one more secret rank above the S rank. To achieve the elusive S plus rank, I will be required to play almost perfectly. Only 4 healing items can be used, and at least 3 of those healing items are required for a collectible. All 15 secrets must be found. I must slay at least 80 monsters. 0 bonus items can be used from bonus unlocks. I cannot die a single time, and I am never allowed to gaze into the safety of a campfire and save the game until those credits roll. Meaning, I only get one shot at this. Hello everybody, my name is Lucile, and today I will be sharing my journey with Crow Country's S plus rank on Murder of Crows difficulty. Hey, before we begin, I'd like to say there will be spoilers of puzzle solutions and more or less the entire story, so if you're planning on playing Crow Country, please do so before watching this video. Alright, thank you, subscribe! Before I get into the actual challenge of achieving S plus rank, I'll need to know how to achieve it. There are 3 things I'll need to know to have success in this challenge. The first being what items I need to progress, where I use them, and when I use them. Like other games in the genre, Crow Country has a plethora of items that are used for progression in the story and the park itself. Understanding and knowing when to collect each item and how to use them will be a baseline skill required for this challenge moving forward. The second thing I'll need to understand is where ammo pickups are, how to replenish my resources, and when to use specific weapons. Because one of the S+ rank requirements is 80 enemy kills, I'm going to be using a lot of ammunition, and I'm going to need to know how to replenish and be resourceful with what I have, since resources are less plentiful in Murder of Crows. There are multiple ways of obtaining helpful pickups in Crow Country, those being glass jars, wooden boxes, vending machines, and trash cans. However, in Murder of Crows, trash cans and vending machines yield no helpful items to be collected and can't even be searched, so you can disregard those when moving forward. I'll also need to understand when to open up boxes and jars so I can always get exactly what items and supplies I need from them at any time. I'll go over how to manipulate item drops when I go over the actual route. The third thing I'll need to understand in order to succeed in this challenge are the different types of enemies and traps I'm going to encounter while exploring Crow Country. There are 8 enemy types, 4 mini-bosses, and 1 final boss. And there are 6 environmental hazards that can be used to my detriment or success. Understanding these obstacles and how to deal with them is crucial to navigating around the park safely, and I will be covering how to deal with each and every one of them as they come up in the run. The beginning few minutes of this challenge are all about collecting as many resources as you can before enemies start to spawn. The game introduces me to the main character, Marta Forrest, a surprisingly young detective tasked with finding Mr. Edward Crow. I exited my car and picked up some ammo for my handgun and a medkit. Since I can't heal, medkits and antidotes seem almost useless, but they do have one helpful use in this challenge, that I will explain in a moment. At the entrance of the park, I collected the pocket light and an antidote before entering the Crow Country theme park. This main area is completely safe aside from 1 bear trap that I can either ignore or disarm, and 3 wooden crates and a glass jar. Here I will explain how item pickups work and how we can manipulate them to give me the items I need. Glass jars and wooden boxes essentially work the exact same way, so for brevity's sake, I'm going to combine the 2 and just call them containers. Now imagine there is a container, and that container is currently checking my inventory for things I need and things I already have. Currently I have 1 medkit, 1 antidote, and 7 handgun ammo. Because I have a couple healing items, these 3 boxes are almost guaranteed to be handgun ammunition, and so, by purposefully not picking up any ammo in this room, I can shoot all of the boxes and get 24 bullets from just these 3 wooden crates alone. Keep in mind that item containers do not respawn, so only shoot them if you need to, but also don't be afraid of potentially wasting them. After doing some container manipulation, I backtracked and picked up all of the normal handgun pickups in Crow Country and in the bathroom, as well as grabbed some shotgun shells, a laser sight for the handgun, and another antidote, which allowed me to manipulate this container to giving me a grenade. I then entered the first sub-area of the park, Fairy Tale Town, and picked up another grenade, shotgun shells, a large med kit, and the map of this area. I met Arthur Mole, a teenage photographer who got injured while trying to photograph the monsters. I helped him by carrying him to the safety of the car and continued onward. From here, there are 2 choices to pick from. I can either head down the utility corridor, fight some monsters, and head into the Crow Lounge for some more pickups, or I can skip straight to getting the first key item. Because of the way I manipulated the item containers earlier, I have enough supplies to last me for a while, so I skip straight for the item I'll need for progression. Doing this and not going into the Crow Lounge also buys more time to explore without monsters spawning for a while, which conserves my ammo. I went through the fairy pond into the back rooms of the park and collected an ammo pickup and the first of 15 secrets, being the Magnum laser sight. Traversing back through the fairy pond, I shot a hidden switch in a tree and collected the first key item, the bronze key. With the bronze key in hand, I moved to unlock the tiny house and prepare the dig site for later, while also collecting the second secret, the laser sight for the shotgun. Because I skipped the Crow Lounge, enemies still won't spawn in Fairy Tale Town for a while, so I can run straight through back into Crow Country and deal with the first enemy of the run, the Spindle. Spindles are long and lanky creatures that have long reach, move decently fast, and deal a lot of damage if they manage to get on top of you. And they're my least favorite enemies in the game. Because of how skinny they are exceptionally difficult to take down with guns. Anytime I encounter a spindle, I say, alright, f it, and then I take it out with grenades. Thankfully, there are only 2 spindles we have to fight in the run. Here, I throw one of my grenades and lead the spindle over to one of the explosive barrels in the room to finish the job. Now that the room is safe and spindle-free, I can unlock the train room with the bronze key and pick up another grenade and some more handgun ammo. I actually got lucky here and got another grenade from the jar inside of the room for a total of 3 grenades in my inventory. I then unlocked the east gate of Crow Country and headed into the second sub-area, Haunted Hilltop. The first time in Haunted Hilltop this run, and there's already a lot to do. The main area is safe for now, so I'm instantly going to collect the 3rd secret by running through the dungeon and interacting with this Iron Maiden. On the other side of the wall, there is a hidden hallway containing the secret magnum ammo and a locked door. Re-entering the dungeon introduces our next enemy type, puddles. Puddles are small globs of flesh that crawl along the floor. They are easy to avoid and easy to kill due to only needing 1 bullet to do it. They are dangerous when in groups of themselves and mixed in with other enemies and can sneak up on you if you're not paying attention. Do not underestimate them and just carefully take them out when you see them for less risk during future navigation through the park. Heading out of the dungeon and towards the Haunted Manor, I encountered the 3rd, technically 1st enemy type that we're supposed to see, the Guests. Guests are your standard survival horror zombie enemy. They vary in sizes and slowly walk towards you with their arms stretched forward. It's worthy to note that bullets deal more damage the closer you are to an enemy, and headshots deal double damage, so there's risk-reward to your shots. Spend more to shoot safely from afar, or risk taking damage for less ammo cost. Guests, however, are somewhat different compared to your typical zombie. They can actually abruptly move their bodies side to side in jittery movements while moving towards you, causing your shots to miss. Underestimating the normal guests ended up costing me 3 attempts at this challenge, so more times than not, it is better to simply be safe than sorry and spend the extra ammo. Entering the crypt now, there's a simple puzzle involving rotating statues. Solving this puzzle will make a mini-boss appear, so make sure you save at least 1 grenade for this fight to make it easier. As of writing the script, there's no official name for this mini-boss, so I'm gonna name it. And given that this is a crypt, I think the mummy suits it fine. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. There's a couple other unnamed monsters in this game, and I ended up giving all of them my own names to what I think the game would call them, so let me know what you think as they come up. Anyway, before leaving the room, don't forget the decently well-hidden gasoline pickup, as having 30 before obtaining the shotgun is ideal. I made it to the southeast utility corridor, where I grabbed a few pickups, a new map, and the next key item, the crank from a safe. I opened the big metal door to meet Julie, the locally feared lawsuit attorney, who is here to find Edward Crow, the same person I'm looking for. With the crank in hand, I can instantly move to obtain the next key item over in the Haunted Manor, but not without encountering the 4th enemy type. These guys are also unnamed anywhere online or in-game, so I've decided to call them Huggers. Huggers are medium-sized blobs on the ground with long, lanky arms that reach forward in a hugging formation, hence the name. These enemies can be very dangerous in tight corners, and before you have anything stronger than the handgun. Luckily, the 2 that spawn in Haunted Hilltop can be taken care of somewhat easily with some well-placed handgun shots and an explosive barrel. To open the way to the Haunted Manor, I have to ring this bell a certain amount of times. Ringing it 5 times will open the door to the manor. Ringing it 8 times will grant me the 4th secret, some more magnum ammo. Inside the Haunted Manor, there was a big clock puzzle that is now solvable with my newly acquired crank, granting me the next key item, the gemstone. I headed into the hidden hallway behind the painting and took out the 2 guests that were prowling the halls and proceeded forward while looting lockers and disarming traps. When I entered the center of the room, I heard a gunshot in the room to the right. Upon further investigation into the office, I saw a man dead on the floor. However, I don't care about this man, I just want his ammo. So I grabbed this random guy's remaining handgun ammo and left. Outside his office, I met Natalie Crow, Edward Crow's daughter, and gave her an antidote to try to help her sickness that she got from being injured by one of the guests. With my new key items, I can exit through the north side of the staff hallway and enter the theater. This is one of my least favorite rooms in the entire game for one reason, and that reason is the enemy that it introduces to the list. The 5th enemy type, goblins, are silly little guys who react to sound. If they hear you, they will sprint at you with their little grabby hands and try to attack you. In groups, they are incredibly dangerous due to their speed and take way too many handgun shots to take out comfortably due to their size. The best way to take care of them is usually just one-hit KOing them with either the Magnum or the shotgun. Luckily, the theater is the only place where they are in a large group and with tight corners, so this is the only real scary place with them. I don't have the shotgun or the Magnum yet, so I spent 2 grenades in this room, and after a lovely little chat with Mr. Crow about how much I just hate tiny little goblin men trying to grab me, I left the theater. I've only lost 1 attempt at this challenge to goblins, but I'm still mad about it because it was entirely my fault. Leaving the theater, back in Fairy Tale Town, it wasn't long before I met the 6th enemy type, Grinners. Grinners are tankier versions of your standard guests with a little more speed and range. They can be dangerous if you aren't prepared with a shotgun and in groups of other enemies. Their spikes also allow them to deal a lot of damage, so getting hit once by these is a run killer. They also explode after death, which steals over half your health. Didn't know that. And that only adds to their threat level. On their own, they have more bark than bite, but the further you progress through the game, the harder they become to deal with. Alright, progression lightning round. I used the gemstone to get the chain from the swan boat. After I got the chain, I re-entered the dig site to find the 7th enemy type. These are also unnamed online and in-game, so I came up with the name Mounds. They are slow-moving, tanky piles of flesh that move towards you. I threw a grenade at that bastard and used the crank and chain to pull up a block of resin that I melted with a mounted flamethrower, which gave me another key item, the Woeful Mask. I can technically use this item now, but I highly recommend getting the shotgun first, which is my next destination. I stepped outside into Crow Country and met Detective Harrison James, who is here to investigate the missing persons case for Edward Crow. I told him where I saw Natalie and used the crank to open the west gate in Crow Country and entered the 3rd sub-area, Ocean Kingdom. After gathering a couple of pickups around the area, I entered the submarine and shot some sea creatures and finally obtained a new gun. The shotgun, a powerful up-close and personal weapon great for most of the enemies in the entire game. But even though I had one of the strongest weapons in the game, the enemies and threats only get more dangerous as the game progresses. Things are about to get harder. So everything that I just went over has covered the first 20 or so minutes of the run, and has been pretty easy so far. I think the first part of this game is just collecting enough supplies to make it through the difficult segments in the mid-game. The middle game drains you of your resources and leaves you scrambling for supplies if you don't make every bullet count. The difficulty increase was instantly apparent when I left the submarine, but it's a perfect encounter to test our new shotgun on the 8th and final enemy type of the game, Lumbers. There are only a few lumbers in the game, and they're dangerous but easy to take down from afar as long as you have a grenade. A grenade and a shotgun blast will take them to their knees, and then you can finish them off with a final handgun shot to the face. This choke point is awkward, and throwing the first grenade will alert 2 nearby guests, and sometimes the shotgun can miss when you're too close to the walls. So be careful and be patient with your shots. Following immediately after that stressful fight, I go into, my opinion, the 2nd hardest room in the entire game, the Witchwood. The puzzle itself isn't difficult, and the traps are easy to avoid if you're careful, but it's what happens after the puzzle that's scary. After I solved the puzzle, I made it to the center of the room where there is a pool of murky water. I reached into the water, and I got the next key item, the trident. The room suddenly went dark, and enemies started to spawn, their mind-draining moans echoing throughout the room. There is a secret Magnum ammo pickup that I have to get in this room as the completion rank requires it. Another reason why this room is stressful, and something that has never happened to me before, is that the enemies can hit you over the maze walls. At this point, I wasn't even sure if it was possible anymore. You need health and heals for one of the puzzles that grants one of the required secrets. I thought about resetting because there was so much left to go, and there was no way I had enough health for the puzzle. But I told myself that I should use this attempt to see if it was possible, even if I took a hit. I refilled my ammo from my containers in the haunted hilltop, using the container manipulation strategy, and prepared to continue on even though I no longer believed. The next destination is the restaurant located in Ocean Kingdom, so I headed there while taking care of any enemies I saw along the way. As I walked through the western staff hallway, I noticed a giant reinforced crate in the center of the room. There was something in that crate, and I'm going to fight it the next time I pass through this room. But for now, I headed into the restaurant. Because I now have the trident, I can make the sea monsters sing and open their treasure chests containing the silver key. This is tied for the most important key item in the game, and you'll see in a moment, but right now, I need to prepare for a fight. This is the second mini-boss, but it's just as easy as the first. The mini-boss, who my friends wanted to name Bob for some reason, does one thing: crawl around and look at you. The easiest way to deal with Bob is to toss 2 grenades his way and forget he exists. I headed into the Crow Lounge for the very first time this playthrough and grabbed a grenade and the secret map, and then used the silver key to unlock the door that was in the same room as that boss whose name I already forgot. There is a fun puzzle in here, but I already know the solution, so I played a sick tune on the keyboard and switched on the elevators, allowing me to now descend into the underground level of Crow Country. I don't want to do that yet, so I killed the lumber outside of Tolman's office and headed back into the arcade, where I showcased my sick gamer skills by masterfully answering the quizzes, jumping with dolphins, racing on a boat, and shooting evil sharks, which granted me the next important item, the data disk, the other item tied for the most important in the game. I now can go around all of the park and use the data disk and silver key to unlock several upgrades and items in a big snowball effect in my favor. Using the silver key, I unlocked the back entrance to the gift shop in Crow Country. There are enemies in here, so I made sure to have the shotgun locked and loaded as I entered. After taking care of the guests and puddles inside, I collected an upgrade that increased the capacity of the shotgun. Then, inside a cash register, I found the Magnum, the strongest gun in the game. The upgrade train didn't stop there as I entered the train room, and used the data disk to solve the puzzle and net me the flamethrower, an incredibly powerful tool and weapon. After obtaining the flamethrower, I headed south, back out to the parking lot. There was a mound I had to take out to get by safely, but it was no problem. I used the silver key on the trunk of Edward Crow's car and put on the running shoes, which gives me a lot of mobility, which is extremely helpful for maneuvering around the late game enemies and traps. With my new running shoes on, I sprinted over to Haunted Hilltop and cleared out a goblin and a mound before entering the dungeon. There was a grinner waiting for me in here and a hanging chandelier trap, so I shot the grinner down with a shotgun blast and used the handgun to shoot down the chandelier. I then used the data disk and obtained the empty acid bottle and stocked up on supplies by looting the cells. After gearing up, I entered another code into the computer and moved over to the crypt, and I looked at a beautiful waxy woman to learn how to heal myself better. With all of these new upgrades and weapons, I was now able to collect remaining secrets all over the map while also clearing out enemies for the 80 kills requirement. First step is to enter the Haunted Manor again. There is a hugger and a guest inside. I took them out and opened the painting behind the vampire to talk to the little mushroom boy who upgraded the range on my newly obtained flamethrower. The next destination was the theater. I walked through the now much dimmer staff hallway, making sure to carefully look out for enemies as I walked through. Inside the theater, I shot the head of the fairy and melted her resin brains to obtain the golden key. Things were looking hopeful. Even though I took damage early, I think I had enough health to tackle the secret puzzle and stay under the healing item restriction. I just had to clear out some more enemies and make my way to the mushroom, but then disaster struck. While trying to avoid a guest walking towards me, I ran directly into a gas trap and became poisoned. I panicked and sprinted over to the mushroom, trying to avoid the enemies blocking my path. But I failed to listen to my own advice and underestimated the reach of normal guests. I took damage again, sending below half health. This room requires you to eat 6 mushrooms. 3 are safe and don't do anything, and 3 are dangerous. One of the bad mushrooms deals critical damage and poisons you. One deals a little damage and poisons you, and the final mushroom deals moderate damage. I had no idea if I was going to survive after this room. I healed once and started to eat the mushrooms. The first mushroom sent me below half health, so I used my second heal. The second mushroom I ate sent me to critical health, so I had to use my third heal. I finished eating the mushrooms and used my last allowed heal on curing the poison the mushrooms had caused. I collected my reward, an upgrade for my handgun's damage, extremely helpful for enemies in the future, but I was injured and can no longer sprint. When you're at caution status or lower, Mara will limp instead of walking. She can no longer run either, so with no more healing, I have to limp for the rest of the game. Things were so hopeful, but then in a few small mistakes, all my hopes of completing this challenge were buried away. I was one hit away from death, and my lack of mobility was going to make certain enemies a nightmare to deal with. things just got way harder. This isn't the first run where I've made a mistake causing me to try to limp my way to the finish line. Not only does this make the challenge much more difficult with the slow movement speed, but because my mobility was cut in half, it's going to take much longer to solve these puzzles and move forward. Each run where I've had to continue ended tragically, but this was my third time in this position, and I had hope in my heart. Despite the imposed difficulty, this run felt different. I felt like even though I made mistakes near the end of the mid-game, I felt confident in the late game, and made sure that I was going to finish this challenge. So I mustered up my courage and pressed onward. I headed back to Ocean Kingdom and used the flamethrower to burn down this wooden door. There are only 3 more secrets to collect, and 2 of them are in this very room. There's an unnamed monster peeking out of the floor, who I'm told should be named Alfred or Stinglebert. I shoot Alfred Stinglebert with a single shot of the handgun to scare him away for good, and allow me to collect the secrets. There's an octopus puzzle that asks that we enter a code in order to obtain some more Magnum ammo. And the best upgrade in the game is in the other secret in this room. The little mushroom boy is back, and he is going to upgrade our already powerful Magnum to the gold-plated Magnum, which does significantly more damage than its predecessor. Thankfully, I've cleared out most of the rooms, so I can traverse safely, but there's a grinner in the northwest staff hallway. This would be the first enemy threat I would face in my weakened state, and it's a dangerous one too. However, this grinner is programmed weirdly and will always walk out of bounds, so I could ignore it, but it's better to take out any enemies you see to mitigate the risk, if you have to travel through any rooms again. I took the strange opportunity and took out the wall creature in this room alongside the grinner. I decided it'd be optimal to use some of our very limited precious Magnum ammo. It will one-hit kill any normal enemy in the game now, and it should be used for emergencies and mini-bosses, but I don't have another mini-boss for the rest of the run, as there's ways to avoid them completely. It's time for the most stressful segment of the run, going underground. Not only is this place riddled with dangerous enemies that drain your resources, I'm limping for it. The first challenge I have to face is a mini-boss in the staff break room, who I will name Norbert. I need to flip this switch to have access to the rooms down here that have some of the last-minute crucial puzzles to solve before we can finish the game. There's a helpful shotgun pickup in this room, but the second you flip the switch to open the door, Norbert smashes out from under the pool table and begins a fight. Luckily, this fight is optional if you already know the code to unlock the gate. And even though this may seem stressful and I was slowed down due to my injuries, I'm still able to walk past the giant, angry Norbert and escape from its poisonous clutches. It's time to traverse the underground. There are lots of dangerous traps and enemies here, including this lumber, but my least favorite trap is this swinging hook. Thankfully, it's the only one down here, but because of my slow movement speed, the timing to get past it is a very short window. Luckily, I made it past and proceeded to enter the room labeled Friday. Inside, there was a container that I used to fill my acid bottle. The acid bottle is technically optional for the story, but I have to collect all 15 secrets, and I do need it for the last secret I need to collect. As I moved onward through the terrifying depths of Crow Country's underground, things started to creep up inside my brain. The creaking of pipes that led to unknown areas. The potential for danger around every single corner. The strong feeling of anxiety welling up within me as I limped forward with determination and purpose in my heart. I hobbled into the minecart leading to the northeastern portion of the underground. There was a hugger at the end of the first minecart, no big deal at all. I pulled out my shotgun and fired. But something went wrong. Remember when I said to be careful about using the shotgun near walls? I made a critical error, and the hugger came closer. I fired again, but I missed. I panicked, and I limped backwards and reloaded my shotgun, but even though I managed to get some shots in, I didn't deal enough damage to take it down. I miscalculated. I made a critical mistake, and now I'm gonna pay the price for it. Last attempt's flashback ended, and I was not keen on wasting another chance, so I shot that motherfucker in the face with a gold magnum. I shook off my nerves, and I collected a helpful gasoline pickup from an item container as I continued down the hall and encountered a grinner and a mound next to each other. Grinners are deadly when I'm in this limping state, as they are much faster than me, and if I get caught without any ammo loaded, I'm screwed. Thankfully, I managed to take out both the Grinner and the Mound, and then entered the next route, labeled Sunday. I shot the generator and grabbed the final map of the game, as well as a medkit I won't be able to use. This is the point in the run where my anxiety and fear starts to linger in the back of my mind even stronger than it did before. It wasn't thoughts of failure, but it was hope that I could win, and that I was afraid of messing up in the final stretch again. As this creeped up on me, I heard a horrible sound. There was a spindle here. I took out the guess that was roaming around and encountered the enemy. Due to their long reach and fast speed, there was no way I was going to be able to run away to safety. This was my one chance, and I needed to kill this thing. I threw a grenade as the spindle sprinted in my direction. Thankfully, I remembered a maneuver you can do even when you're injured, backwalking. You actually walk faster when you're backwalking compared to normal walking, but you cannot backwalk while you are aiming your gun. I walked backwards away to get some distance and used another grenade to take out the final spindle I'd have to deal with in the entire run. After taking the next minecart forward, I had another close call with a Grinner, followed by a puddle. I stayed calm, however, and managed to take them out with no problem as I headed into the next room. This was a safe room. Thank God! There were pickups here to replenish my supplies and help me keep traveling. The next enemy I had to get past was a goblin. If I didn't one-hit kill any goblin from here on out, I was good as dead. Goblins are too fast, and the only way to outspeed them would be to sprint away with my running shoes. But I obviously can't do that. I tossed another grenade and killed the goblin. To my luck, it also blew up a nearby container, which immediately replenished the grenade I just used. I solved a puzzle involving shutting off this overflowing gas pipe, and talked to my good pal Harrison James. I'm actually surprised he's made it this far unscathed. He might actually be the only one to make it out safely. I can finally leave the underground for now, so I head up the southwest elevator. When I rose from the depths, I noticed a box was moving. Skeptically, I opened it up and rescued Julie from drowning in dirt. She thanked me and let me know that she'll help me if I need it. There's a couple ammo pickups and a crucial hint on a piece of paper that will not only save ammo, but save my life as well. I unlocked the room to the control room next to the Seven Seas boat ride with my golden key and then headed back to Julie to ask her to operate the ride for me. Despite all the horrors and horrible trials I've had to endure during my investigation of Crow Country, at least I get to experience a fun boat ride while I'm here. I collected the final key item, the battery from one of the animatronic mermaids, and headed back to the control room to meet up with Julie. When I entered the control room, however, Julie was nowhere to be found. In her place, a splash of blood and her broken glasses. Julie was gone. With nothing left to do, I headed back into the park, but something was different. The park had entirely gone dark, and there were no more monsters roaming around. This is officially the end game, and the furthest I've ever gotten in this challenge. The park may be empty, but we are not alone. Despite there being no more guests roaming around for me to have to deal with, this is the most stressful the final stretch can possibly be due to me having to limp through it. There's one last secret to collect back in one of the first rooms I investigated, the bathroom. There's a guest in here now, but I'm done being conservative with my ammunition. I used precious magnum ammo, but I want no risks. I'm finally near the end. I used the now full acid bottle and burned away the bones in the toilet to pick up the final 15th secret and the final pickup of magnum ammo. I limped back outside into the darkness of Crow Country and set my next destination to the southeast elevator. I had one last order of business in the underground and needed to make it to the electrocution room in the southeastern halls. Right before I entered the haunted hilltop, a bullet whistled past my head. Someone is watching me, and that someone wants me dead. Every 15 seconds or so, someone shoots a bullet at you. I've never been hit by one of these bullets, but they get scarily close, especially when you can't sprint. Another dodged bullet later, and I made it to the elevator and headed down into the underground once again. Even though I was just here, it has already become much more dangerous than it was previously. There were now multiple electric laser traps that provided even less time to move past than the swinging hook trap did. In the middle of all these electrified beams trying to fry me, there was a mound I had to take out as well. and I didn't know that they couldn't be damaged unless they popped up, so I wasted a magnum bullet and had to approach. At this point, I was incredibly stressed and so afraid of making a mistake and having to reset all the way back to the beginning. As the mound approached me, I managed to shake off the brief instant of fear and doubt and killed the mound with a carefully aimed magnum shot to guarantee the kill. No risks. I made it to the room and charged up the battery for the completion of obtaining all of the key items. There is still one last thing to do, however, before we can finally reach the end. I need to make my way over to the northeast staff hallway and enter Mr. Crow's office to give power to the elevator at the center of the park. I carefully navigated the electricity traps again and made my way towards the northeast elevator. Thankfully, I made it there without any threats getting in my way, but at the top of the elevator, there was a scary situation. A lumber and a goblin were waiting for me at the top of the elevator. A deadly encounter that will need usage of valuable resources. I used another precious magnum bullet to take out the goblin in one shot, and then threw a grenade at the lumber and took him down with my now dwindling supply of handgun ammunition. I then used the gold key to open up Crow's office and scrounge around for any supplies that might be helpful to me. I found a diary written by a 10-year-old Edward Crow, which gave me valuable context to what happened here all those years ago. I talked to Natalie Crow one last time before entering the control room. Remember that crucial hint I talked about earlier? There's a mini-boss in this room that in my current condition I would not be able to kill without dying or using too much ammo. Using the information I received when I read that note, I was able to enter a secret code on the floor and incinerate the creature before it even had the chance to attack me. I flipped the switch that gave power to the central elevator, and the final path was set in motion. One more thing to do. I needed to travel to the center of the park. Still injured, I was anxious about getting shot, so I decided to risk traveling through the underground again, as it would lower my time being exposed to potentially getting shot down right before the very end of my journey. I carefully made my way over to the southeast elevator and traveled through the haunted hilltop. My heart rate started to rise because I remembered the final room that I had to survive, one that I had forgotten about until this very moment. Once I go down this elevator, there is one last combat room. This room is difficult with health to spare, and I had to do it without the ability to sprint, and with only one hit left before death. It was me or them. Ignoring the ear-splitting rings of the now defective elevator, I entered the room and instantly threw a grenade at the group of enemies to my left. A grinner and a guest fell to my well-placed grenade, and I limped into the room for the fight of my life. If there was a place to use all of my normal weapon ammunition, this was it. I pulled out the flamethrower and torched another guest before turning my attention to the many puddles on the floor. I whipped out the handgun and shot one of the puddles before needing to turn my attention to take down another guest, and using a combination of careful aim and walking backwards, I finished off the final puddle without issue. There was a mound in the corner of the room that killed off two, with 2 pumps of my shotgun. And that was it. I did it. I can't believe it. Not only did I finish this room damageless, but I also completed it while being unable to sprint. This room contains several guests and puddles, a mound and a grinner. The most deadly combination of enemies in the entire game is in this small room. The hardest challenge was over, and I was victorious. There is no more combat other than the final boss, so I can breathe for a bit. In the next room was a horrible sight, though. The body of a recently shot Harrison James is found, but I have no time to mourn the loss. I needed to prepare. I looted the supplies in the room and offered a moment of silence to the fallen detective before moving forward. One more puzzle between me and the truth. I solved it quickly and confronted Mr. Tolman. He didn't want me to pass because I said the puzzle in his office was stupid. I gave a very sarcastic apology, but before he could let me pass through, Marvin showed up and pointed his gun at me. Marvin turns out to be a bad guy. Who saw that one coming? Well, it doesn't matter. He literally dies 3 seconds later, and Julia's alive. Somehow. I discussed the plan with my strange new friends and sent them to help the other survivors escape. I let myself breathe and celebrate the fact that I made it this far. I unhooked one hook off the gate in front of me, and then the other hook. My reward for making it this far is a small pool of water. Washing my face in the water, I am reminded of my failures and successes in this challenge. I've made it to the end, and there was no turning back now. Washing up heals all of my wounds, and this heal doesn't count as the healing item counter, so I am at full strength for the trials ahead. I descended down the ladder and mentally prepared myself for the end. At the bottom of the ladder was the lab of Edward Crow. Here, I collected some last-minute supplies and assembled what I had at my disposal for the final challenge ahead of me. I was ready. I had shown that I could expertly conserve all the ammo I needed for this fight. I pressed the button on the intercom and spoke to Mr. Crow. He asked that before I meet him, if I could bring the vials of green liquid that he left on the desk for me. In order to carry all of these vials, I had to leave behind all of my items. I reminisced about the journey that had led me to this moment, and I collected the vials of green liquid that Mr. Crow wanted me to grab. I shook out the last of my nerves, walked through the final door, and confronted Edward Crow, the man behind all of this. Before initiating the scene with Mr. Crow, I did one last thing to prepare for this boss fight. I disarmed all of the bear traps in the arena for an easier time while moving around to dodge attacks. I have fought this boss before, I know what I'm doing. He explained what the guests were, and where they came from, the pool behind him, and how all of this relates to me. He also explained the origin of the sickness they brought. He then told me that the vials I held were the cures to this disease, and that he would not be taking it. Then, Mr. Edward Crow, owner of the amusement park Crow Country, handed me a piece of crumpled paper, raised his wine glass, leaned back, and fell into the pool behind him. That final white flash as my bullet hit Mr. Crow was enough to tell me that it was over. I did it! I opened the paper that Mr. Crow gave me before falling into the pool. The information I gleaned from it, horrifying to say the least. But I came here to do one thing, and one thing only. Kill Edward Crow. I pulled out my trusty handgun, the one that had been with me since the beginning, and never failed me. I took a deep breath, put my finger on the trigger, and pointed the laser sight towards the contortion that was now Edward Crow. He tried to tell me what he saw on the other side of the pool, but I didn't want to hear it. Once I had composed myself, without any hesitation, I pulled the trigger. It was then that I sat back in my chair, removed my focus from the screen, and prayed that I did everything correctly within the restrictions of the challenge. 4 heals used, 92 enemies killed, 0 bonus items used, and 0 deaths. I was afraid for a moment until I saw that beautiful S+ badge appear. And that, my friends, is the story of how I earned the S+ rank in the hardest difficulty of one of my new favorite games of all time, Crow Country. I really love this game. It now holds a lot of memories, and is not only is interesting, but it's fun to play through. Even though I know all of the puzzle solutions, I still have fun running through the experience. Seeing what different paths I can take at different moments, trying to conserve as much resources and ammo as possible, and absorbing as much knowledge about the lore and characters as I can. This is and was an amazing experience, and if you end up playing Crow Country and you really like it, give this challenge a try. It only ended up taking me 6 attempts, so I think anyone with enough patience and willingness to learn can have success in this challenge. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like the video and subscribe. I would love to be able to make more challenge videos like this because this was an incredibly fun project to work on. And once again, thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Four? What was the 4th one? Oh my god, I choked. Wait, I got S+! It's 4 and under! Oh my god! Oh my god! I thought it was 3 and under! Oh my god! Oh my god! It's 3:21 a.m. I was like, I told myself last time, I was like, one more. And then I failed it, and I was like, no, I know I could do it. Oh my god! Oh my god! Let's go!